When you think of a nuclear disaster, names like Chernobyl or Fukushima probably come to mind. These events shook the world, their stories told and retold. But what if I told you about a nuclear catastrophe so catastrophic, so devastating, that it was kept secret from the entire world for decades? A disaster that poisoned an entire region, created a radioactive scar on the map, and whose victims were silenced and forgotten. This is the story of the Kishdim disaster, the nuclear nightmare the Soviet Union tried to erase from history. Deep within the Ural Mountains of the Soviet Union, hidden from prying eyes, was a massive industrial complex known as Mayak. Its name, meaning lighthouse in Russian, was a cruel irony. This was no beacon of hope. It was the heart of the Soviet nuclear weapons program. Established in the late 1940s, Mayak's primary mission was to produce plutonium for atomic bombs. The pressure of the Cold War arms race was immense, and speed was valued far more than safety. For years, the facility recklessly dumped highly radioactive waste directly into the nearby Techa River, a vital water source for dozens of villages downstream. The people living along the river had no idea the water they drank, the fish they ate, and the gardens they tended were being saturated with deadly, invisible poison. The Soviet authorities knew, but they said nothing. The secrecy of the nuclear program was paramount. This blatant disregard for human life and the environment set the stage for an even greater tragedy. The clock was ticking on a time bomb. By the mid-1950s, the liquid nuclear waste at Mayak was being stored in massive underground steel tanks. These tanks required constant cooling to prevent the intensely radioactive materials from overheating. On September 29, 1957, a cooling system in one of the tanks failed. For over a year, the problem went unnoticed or was simply ignored. The temperature inside the tank climbed steadily until it reached a critical point. The waste dried out, and the spark ignited the chemical salts, triggering a colossal non-nuclear explosion. The blast was powerful enough to shatter the concrete lid weighing 160 tons and launch it into the air. A towering plume of radioactive particles, equivalent to millions of curies of radiation, was shot a mile high into the atmosphere. The radioactive cloud began to drift northeast, carried by the wind, silently raining down a toxic fallout over a vast territory of more than 20,000 square kilometers. For the people living in the path of this deadly cloud, life changed in an instant. They saw strange auroras in the sky and a fine grey dust settling on everything: their homes, their crops, their skin. They had no idea it was radioactive fallout. Within days, people started falling ill with mysterious symptoms: uncontrollable bleeding, skin lesions, hair loss, and vomiting. This was acute radiation sickness. The government's response was slow and shrouded in secrecy. About 10 days after the explosion, the evacuations began, but they were chaotic and incomplete. Officials told the villagers there was a contagious disease, never mentioning the word radiation. They were forced to leave everything behind: their homes, their livestock, their possessions, all now dangerously contaminated. In the years and decades that followed, those exposed suffered from soaring rates of cancer, birth defects, and other chronic illnesses. An entire generation was poisoned, their health destroyed by an invisible enemy they were never warned about. The Soviet government went to extraordinary lengths to cover up the disaster. They never publicly acknowledged the explosion. The affected area, which became known as the East Ural Radioactive Trace, or YURT, was simply fenced off and designated as a nature preserve. Cartographers were ordered to alter maps, literally wiping villages off the face of the earth. For over 30 years, the Kishdim disaster remained one of the world's most guarded secrets, hidden from its own citizens and the international community. It wasn't until the late 1980s, with the policy of glasnost, that Russian scientists and journalists finally brought the truth to light. Today, the Mayak site remains one of the most contaminated places on the planet. The story of the forgotten victims, serves as a chilling reminder of the devastating human cost of secrecy and the terrifying power we've unleashed. Thanks for watching. If you found this story important, please like this video and subscribe for more hidden histories.